Hello everyone, my name is Anya Hawkins, welcome to my project vlog. You know how sometimes you just need a thing without putting too much thought into it, and then suddenly it becomes the most worn piece in your wardrobe. That's what happened with this sweater. This is Brioche Raglan, made top down. I wore it quite a lot. It is pretty old, peels a little, and it's just not as shiny as it once was, but it's still very good sweater. I like it a lot. But a couple of years ago I let someone borrow it and I haven't seen it since. I had to fight for it just to be filming in it today. In a family where several persons wear the same size, it can happen. In other words, we need more, but exactly the same. So that is my plan, but what makes this one so special? I thought about it and I asked other interested parties, and now I have a list of requirements that I have to meet if I would make another one like that. So the color is not important. I used this yarn not because I wanted a sweater specifically in that color or with that pattern. I used it just because I had a lot of it, and brioche tend to take a lot of yarn. So what is actually important is brioche stitch, raglan construction and fit. Combination of those three parameters make this sweater irreplaceable. It is perfect winter sweater for wearing under the jacket. It's very good for layering because it has negative ease. It's not flopping around. You don't have to adjust it in any way. It is so elastic that you don't even feel that you are wearing a sweater. You can do absolutely whatever in it, and it's just very comfortable and very warm. So all of it I must replicate somehow, and I hope that in my stash I have yarn suitable for such project. And about raglan construction. I love the look of raglan seams, even in sewn pieces, not only in knitted garments. Even the fit issues that some people criticize raglan construction for, I find very flattering and interesting. It's like a feature of raglan. Like for example, in this one it's not very pronounced, but sometimes in raglan sweater you have this fold right here that goes across from shoulder to shoulder, and for some reason I find it very cute. Like you can tell instantly that it's a raglan. So the raglan shaping for this project is absolutely must have, and it's not like it's only my opinion. Other interested parties all for raglan shaping and totally against other construction types. So I strongly suspect that if I get all of those requirements right, I again will not get to wear it very much. Challenge accepted. You may ask, what challenge? Just need the same sweater again and that's everything that you need to do. And that was my original plan. But once I pulled out my notes about that project, turned out, and I completely forgot about it, that that sweater was just riddled with problems when I was knitting it. Like, for example, short rows. I need the back of my sweater to be raised up and front of the sweater to be significantly lower. Last time I did wrap and turn short rows. I think I wasn't as proficient with German short rows back then, and it worked to an extent, but it didn't look great. It was disruptive and I had to duplicate stitch over it to hide it. Now I cannot find it. I made a good job of hiding those botched stitches, but the short rows were a problem. And the second big problem for me is glitch in the brioche stitch in the round. When you knit brioche stitch in a round, in a place where rounds meet, there are this weird stitch and it bothers me. I will show you close up, maybe you can see that. In that sweater it is noticeable, well, at least by me it's noticeable. Before I mentioned it, no one ever seen that, but to me it's just glaring, and I researched and I researched and I researched, and there is no way to get rid of such stitch. It's just because of transition between rounds, and when the brioche stitch is relaxed, it's fine. It's like in this receding column. You cannot actually see it, but in that sweater I want to have no ease, or maybe even a slight amount of negative ease, and when brioche stitch is open kinda wide, you can clearly see this place, and I don't want that, and I don't know how to avoid it if I'm gonna be knitting in around top down. I can hide this glitch in one of raglan seams at the back, but then this raglan seam will be different from another one. On a body after armpits, it's not a problem, you can just have it on the side and it will not be visible, but if it's in the back, So what do I do? Making a sweater the same way as this one without fixing those issues that bothers me does not appeal to me. So I'm gonna to try to do something completely different, but in the end get kinda the same result. And it's going to be raglan. It's going to have the back of the neck raised. It's going to have no ease, and it's going to be without this glitch stitch. So how do I achieve all that? I need to think about it. But first things first. While I'm thinking about construction and my process, I need to choose yarn. I'm touching all yarns to my forehead because it's my most sensitive part to scratchiness of fiber. Not my neck, my forehead. After consulting other interested parties, in the end I stopped on this tweedy light grey yarn. Don't know if blanket affected my decision. Well, maybe just a little. Let's talk about power of swatching. You all saw me choosing this yarn, but you know what? It doesn't work like at all. This is my swatch. I usually make a big one, but this time, just after 1.5 inches, I could already tell that this is not what I was looking for. This has got to be the flattest brioche fabric that I have ever seen in my whole life. Where is the squish? I want squishy fabric. This fabric opened instantly, completely, and it stays like that. I'm working on a brioche scarf right now. Actually, I'm in the middle of the row, and this yarn that I'm working with is pretty ropey. It doesn't have a bounce, it's not elastic at all, but still this fabric is very squishy. And this yarn is of the same weight. I'm using the same needles, and you can see that this swatch is like the same width as this scarf, and it has half as many stitches. But that's not even everything that is going on here. It is a tweed yarn. It has these blips of color in it. I picked a tweed yarn for a textured project. What was I thinking? Like, I know that the tweed works best in stockinette or reverse stockinette. I know that. So why did I choose this yarn? I'm blaming the blanket. Even if the brioche stitch behaved perfectly, those blips of color would be lost in this textured fabric, so there would be no point in using it, and it's just typical of me. I have enormous stash of yarn, but when I have a project with requirements that are so specific, like in this case, I have trouble choosing one, because I'm a yarn first person. If I would start the other way around, if I would be looking at this yarn and thinking, what do I want to knit with it? Brioche would be the last thing on my mind. So, new plan. I dived into my stash of yarn again, and I came up with this one. It is almost exactly the same shade of light gray yarn. I was kinda sold already on a light gray sweater, so I found this one. But this time this yarn doesn't have any blips of color. It's the type of yarn that I used many times. It is superwash wool. Not scratchy at all, and I have a lot of it, so let's hope that swatching with it would be more promising. Thankfully this time the yarn worked perfectly. Not only the fabric was really nice, the gauge turned out exactly the same as in a sweater I'm trying to replicate. And now it's time to do some measurements and calculations and to really start thinking about construction. I made some important decisions about construction of my future brioche raglan sweater and I'm already executing them, so I decided it's about time I update you on my progress. I have my project in this very nice cute project basket. It was a gift. This is the face side. I love those soft baskets because in it everything is in one place, but at the same time it's not a bag that is closed. I can see the project. Whenever you have just even 5 minutes of free time, it's so easy to grab and just start working on it. So I decided that in order to avoid every problem that I had with my previous raglan sweater, I need to make it in pieces. I never knitted raglan bottom up in pieces, and it is actually surprisingly quite fun. Brioche stitch is quite boring, but this new type of construction for me makes this project more interesting, and it is very fast. I finished my back panel, and when I'm knitting in pieces I don't like to bind off any stitches, so my neck opening is left on the needle. The neckband, cuffs and bottom hem I will cast on in the round once I sew it up, and those stitches that will go under arm, they are just on stitch markers, on a couple of stitch markers, because I like to do horizontal seams on live stitches. What surprised me when I was knitting this piece is just how fast it is going. If nothing goes wrong, it will be my fastest brioche sweater I ever knitted. How many brioche sweaters I knitted? Counting this, 2. It's going so fast that I already finished my front panel, and it differs from the back panel only with this scoop at the neck. And again I left all my stitches live for future picking up for the neckband. And I started working on a sleeve. I left a space for future cuff and I started increasing right here. So I love this fabric. It's very squishy and it's not scratchy at all. So I hope that it really would be a perfect brioche sweater. So far everything goes very smoothly. There was only one moment where I lost a stitch. This is a view from inside of my basket. No. I can do better. I put the notions into my basket. I was gifted this awesome project basket. And this is a view from it if someone is interested in something like that. And why would they be? Oh my god, I dropped the stitch. I dropped the stitch. Like 2 rows ago. And I noticed it only after a couple of rows, but I picked it up and I fixed my mistake. And that's when I find out that this yarn is very unforgiving of mistakes. Even though I picked up my lost stitches and I fixed them, I had to unravel a portion of the back panel because this yarn just shows every inconsistency in tension really well. And now I'm trying to not even stop in the middle of the row because a stitch will get a little bigger than its neighbors and it is very visible. So it takes a little attention to get the fabric as nice and smooth as possible, but it really is quite a relaxing project that I can do late in the evenings because it's not complicated at all. And now I see why people love to make sweaters in pieces because this is really fast. This is much faster than working with one big sweater in the round. Am I converted to knitting in pieces? No. I still like to work in the round much more. So this is everything that I have for you right now, and I guess I will see you once I will be assembling all of my pieces and trying it on. I chose to seam with a crochet hook. Such seams are very easy to take apart, and since I'm doing this construction type for the first time, there was no guarantee that I will succeed from the first try. I finish each seam with a crochet chain. The chain can be woven in on the inside of the seam, and if I will need to take the seam apart, it is easy to find. It is finally time to try on my sweater. I finished seaming it days ago, but I just hadn't time to try it on, and I wanted you to be present. So let's see how it fits. I did all the seams except for the underarms, and my stitches for the neck are on a waist yarn. So let's see. Ignore all the hanging ends and let's look at it. It looks way better than I expected. All the time that I was knitting, I was thinking that I'm making something pretty bland and boring. But as I look at it right now, this is totally not the case. It actually looks very clean and elegant and feminine. I was watching John Carpenter's The Thing the other day, and I noticed one character wearing brioche raglan, not handmade one, obviously, but I thought to myself, I'm making right now something very similar. Will I look like that wearing it? So raglan seams look fine. The neck opening is how I wanted it to be. It's lower in the front and higher in the back. But of course, I didn't hit the spot with the length of the sleeves because I rarely do them bottom up. I was trying to make them this long, but I missed the spot. Steam blocking gave them additional length, I think. They will become just a little bit shorter once I graft the underarms, but still that is not the length of sleeve that demands a cuff. And I was going to make double folded ribbing for the cuffs and for the hem and for the neck. It is not negative ease. This fabric relaxed a little more than I expected once I blocked it, and I know why I didn't expect it, because I didn't block my swatch, and you should always block them. But still, it's quite close fitted, and since it's a little longer and a little wider than I expected, I think that I will not going to make any cuffs and bottom hem. I will pick up stitches and make a neck only, because I don't want to lose this straight and elegant silhouette. The sleeves are of the perfect length and I want them to stay like that. And the body also, I like where it hits. So it is completely different look But I'm happy with it because, as I said, I was afraid that that sweater will look boring and bland, and I prefer my knitted garments to be like a statement piece in my outfit. And to leave those edges unfinished is a very new thing to me. I never did it before. And what also sways me towards not touching those edges is the fact that I did a crochet cast on for the sleeves and for the body also. And I find that crochet cast on it's the best for brioche projects because it is elastic enough that the fabric can relax to the state that it wants to relax, and at the same time I know that it will never become wavy and floppy. I did crochet cast on with the brioche projects a lot, and I always was very happy with how it behaves with wear. So maybe that sweater doesn't look exactly as I imagined it will look, but I'm very happy with it. And now I'm going to graft my underarms and pick up stitches and knit double folded collar. One by one rib will flow nicely out of brioche stitch, and then you can expect to see final reveal and to hear my final thoughts about that project. So my final thoughts about this project, about my Perfect Brioche Raglan sweater. What I think about it now. I tested it on a hike, you just seen the final reveal, and I can say that that sweater is very comfortable, very warm, even without a jacket. I of course didn't hike all the way without a jacket, it was too cold for it, but in the middle of the day, when the sun was shining and the wind died down, I was very comfortable even without a jacket. So, is it a perfect brioche raglan? Is it perfect? No, it's not perfect. But only because I think that such a thing cannot exist. Brioche stitch and raglan construction, and brioche stitch and raglan construction together, there's so much you can do with it that you cannot possibly put it all together into one project. This sweater is pretty close to being perfect, even though the fit is a little looser than I intended, which is my own fault, as I already told you. I haven't blocked my swatch, I just forgot about it actually. And the fabric, the final fabric, relaxed just a little more than I expected. I don't think that that is a bad thing. The fabric is very pleasant. My arms never fit in the frame. I have long arms. Should I stand like that? Probably not. So what was I talking about? Let me take a drink. I was saying that I don't mind if my final project doesn't turn out exactly as I envisioned, especially if it turns out to be even better than I envisioned. I haven't thought about making this type of hem with a brioche sweater. I realized how good it looks only once I have seen that. And once I seen that, I changed my plan. And I like how high it is on the neck, I like sweaters that close on my neck. I don't like big scoops because warm sweater I don't wear it just on the body. I have a thermal underwear underneath, and I don't like when it can be seen out of anywhere. So I'm very happy with that project. I think it looks very cute. That stitch with this collar looks very clean and elegant. I'm glad that I made this sweater, and I know that it will see a lot of wear. Also, as usual, when I'm finishing a garment, I'm making a matching one for my productivity bear. Look how cute it is. Little brioche sweater, not a raglan. He doesn't have shoulders. So my productivity bear has a matching sweater right now. This little amigurumi bear was a gift for me. His name is Productivity Bear because he sits under my monitor and looks at me with his beady eyes. It reminds me that I need to be productive while I'm sitting in front of a computer, and I'm not there only for like watching YouTube or scrolling through other social media. Also, from a leftover yarn I made a scrunchie. It's in a pearl stitch. I think it turned out really cute. And I still have more than 100 grams of this yarn left. Maybe I will make a hat out of it or something. Well, that was everything that I wanted to talk to you about today. Thank you for watching, and I will see you soon. Bye.